things can be different? What shock treatment can be applied to the body politic, to the national polemic that would reset our Confederation and allow the West to begin feeling like full partners and contributing like full partners instead of vestigial appendages? Is it Senate reform? We have a bill in the legislature of our province that calls for electing senators from Saskatchewan. We've made that commitment. It's part of our government's platform we campaigned on and one of the promises that we've kept. The bill will address one of the three E's, but just one. The other two, even though our government just recently introduced this bill, ladies and gentlemen, I'll tell you, I don't have a great deal of hope today, a great deal of optimism that we are going to achieve the other two E's in a Triple E Senate. Because I've had the chance to sit with the premiers of this land. And those who don't like the Senate the way it is today, for the most part, believe in abolishment. Fair enough. And then there are others that they don't have a dog in this hunt, basically. They're comfortable with the way it is. And we know the constitutional requirement of change for the Senate. So, I'm not sure the change we seek we will find in Senate reform, notwithstanding Alberta's earnest attempts for elected senators and ours as well, because it is only 1/3 of the solution. But there are things that we can do. There are things that we can do in the West to address this issue. There are things that should give us hope in this room about the future of the country and the role that Western Canada can play in our country. The first and foremost is constructive engagement. Maybe seems a little bit oversimplistic, but constructive engagement with other partners in our Confederation and, frankly, with other partners in North America, with bilateral relationships that we can develop with other states, for example, and even on Capitol Hill in Washington. When we were elected, our relationship, Saskatchewan's relationship with the federal government, was dominated by a mind-numbing squabbling over equalization. Even though we had been a have province for a while, even though the people of this province were getting increasingly comfortable with the notion and the thought that now, for a first time in a long time, that we would be giving more to the country than we ever need to get back in return, that notwithstanding, where we were at the point was in this squabble over fiscal federalism and an equalization payment. There was a challenge in the Saskatchewan Court of Appeal. As a new government, we decided to drop the challenge. We decided to give peace a chance with the federal government. It's been the right decision to have taken. And I'm not going to run down the litany of the benefits of that relationship that we have, I think, been able to get for Saskatchewan people working with the national government and for our economy, but suffice it to say we don't want to go back down that other road, constructive engagement. Saskatchewan has also, over the last 2 years, come out of the shadows and attempted to be a force for good when it comes to fostering more cooperation between the Western provinces. And here, BC and Alberta were ahead of everybody. They had joint cabinet meetings in those two provinces long before our government was elected, even when the previous government in Saskatchewan wasn't necessarily interested. In September of this year, though, we were pleased to sign the Western Economic Partnership between Alberta and British Columbia and the province of Saskatchewan. The goal, as this organization knows well, Jim, is to create this barrier-free free trade area of the powerhouses of the Western Canadian economy. I appreciate a recent editorial from the Canada West Foundation that said, and I quote, "The partnership is the most significant interprovincial trade agreement signed since Confederation." We want to prove the Canada West Foundation correct. The constructive engagement strategy for the Western provinces has also meant full membership in organizations like the Pacific Northwest Economic Region, who hosted a meeting and are still there today in Regina. We're now full members here in the province, as Alberta and British Columbia have been for some time. It includes full membership in the National Energy Council. These energy-producing jurisdictions in North America and, frankly, some in South America, who are who are engaged in promoting not just the non-renewables, but renewable energy sources and cooperation amongst those energy-producing jurisdictions. It also includes full and active participation from our standpoint with the Western Governors Association. At the most recent meeting in Park City, Utah, that association asked our province and the state of Montana to be lead jurisdictions in the development of what we're calling the Western Energy Corridor. What we have determined as a result of our engagement with the Western Governors is that we have over a dozen jurisdictions, energy-producing jurisdictions in Western North America that are all seeking the same thing. We're all seeking to do things like improve recovery rates through public-private partnerships in terms of oil development. We're seeking to find ways to reduce the environmental footprint around energy extraction. We're seeking to explore renewables and the new technology. And what we're not yet doing, what we will do better, I think, in the future is cooperating, is looking over each other's respective fences and making sure, heaven forbid, we're not testing the same clean coal technology, which wouldn't make a lot of sense. And so, without any federal government involved, either the Obama administration or our federal government, the provinces have said, and the states have said, let's get this job done. Let's understand the amazing opportunity that exists on the west side of this continent. Everything you can fathom in terms of renewables and non-renewable energies in prolific and providential amounts are here. And we need as governments to be making sure that we're working together to the benefit of the environment and to the benefit of continental energy security for North America, something that obviously our friends in the United States are very interested in. And Saskatchewan and Montana are happy to be at the vanguard of this. We're happy to lead this process for all of the other people involved in the Western Governors Association. And more than simply being engaged bilaterally with states and provinces, I want you to know this, and I think it's certainly true of Manitoba. I know it's true of Alberta and British Columbia. Saskatchewan is going to be standing up and speaking very loudly in the interests of our economy, in the interests of the future of this province. We will do so when it comes to proposals like cap and trade. If I may, I'll just say this here at on this occasion. I take every chance to say this as well. I want to be very clear. Saskatchewan is responsible for 9% of the country's CO2 emissions, and we only have 3% of the population, 3% of the economy. We know in this province that we have to do our share. We have to do more than talk about the carbon issue. And we are. We have signified a willingness to invest about $1.4 billion in the largest clean coal project in the world, as far as we know, advanced the furthest, I would also argue, ready to pick a technology soon. That's at Boundary Dam in southeast Saskatchewan. We have signaled a willingness to invest another $100 million with our friend, Governor Schweitzer in Montana, on a joint Saskatchewan-Montana reference plant that will allow us to test a number of different clean coal technologies and then store and then test the geological storage again in Montana, in the state of Montana. So that just right there, never mind all of the other environmental initiatives, is about $1.5 billion, $1,500 or so for every man, woman, and child, although our population's growing, so that number's coming down. But ladies and gentlemen, I want you to contemplate that, and for those of you from Alberta, you should feel proud in this too, because of the government commitment there with respect to $2 billion of public investment. For all of those other jurisdictions that talk about cap and trade and issue press releases about doing something about carbon in the environment and advocate that we just sort of shift emissions around in some sort of new market, and then potentially for some of the jurisdictions, and I won't say any of them are in our country, but for some of them who would lecture other fossil fuel generating provinces about what they're doing, think about that per capita effort on the part of Alberta and on the part of Saskatchewan. You will not find their match on the planet, I suggest to you.